In this video you'll see two of my favourite locomotives running really well, and I'll tell you why they're two of my favourite locomotives. It's exactly for that reason. They are superb runners. Now this video is really about what I think many, not all, but many railway modelers or toy train players like me really want in our models. I'll show you what we're not so fussed about. Now here's quite a nice model. This is one of my favourites for a while. It's a B17 model made by Hornby. It's in their sort of top of the range sort of thing. One of the things it boasts is sprung buffers. There we are. Now I think the only time you'll ever notice that buffers are sprung is if you do this. 95%, possibly more, of all railway modelers use a form of coupling, either a tension lock that the model came with or another form of coupling, which means that the buffers never actually come in contact with the wagons or the coaches' buffers. So, to my mind, what is the point of sprung buffers? No point at all. People only ever do that to think, oh, it's got sprung buffers, but they never actually use in practice. Another thing that Hornby put on this locomotive, complete waste of time as far as I'm concerned, is the roof vent. If I look at the roof there, if I want, I can slide the roof and it can be open, or I can slide the roof and it can be closed, or somewhere in between. I don't do it very often because I suspect, well, I don't do it at all actually. It's the first time I've moved this. I didn't even know if it had a sliding roof vent, but as far as I'm concerned, totally pointless. If they'd moulded it slightly open, closed, fully open, wouldn't make a blind bit of difference to me. What really matters to me is, does it look like a B17? Yes. And does it run well? Well, funnily enough, this one it used to run superbly for about a year, and then it seems to have started going really slowly. I don't know if it needs just a service or whether there's something wrong with the motor. I have a feeling, because some Hornby motors are like this, it needs a replacement motor. I have a feeling there's something wrong with the motor. But what I do think people want in their models is a good runner. It used to be, it's not anymore. I'm a bit disappointed by that. And now I'll look again at those two locomotives I showed you earlier, both superb runners. Now here you can see one of my very favourite locomotives, as I said. It's a Robinson 04, I think 04, yeah, 280, designed by Robinson for the Great Central Railway. It's built by Bachmann. This is a BR version. Basically it ran on the London North Eastern Railway, and they went into British Rail times. Actually this one is one that I think ran on the GWR for a while. It's got a GWR safety dome there, but anyway, that's not really important. What's important is it's a superb runner. Now another YouTuber, a very well-known YouTuber, didn't like this model. He described it, and to quote, having a shocking mechanism. Yeah, it didn't have, I think he said he didn't have brass bearings on the wheels, and there were other things wrong with it. I can't remember what, but I picked up this model for £80, roughly 80 to 90 pounds, second hand. I think you'll find you have to pay a bit more for it brand new, but it is one of my very best running locomotives. And when someone says it's got a shocking mechanism, if it runs well, I don't know why you think it's got a shocking mechanism. I don't care if it hasn't got brass bearings. Why brass anyway? What's so special about brass? It's not magical. If it runs very well, and I've had this for 5 or 6 years, and I bought it second hand, and I've run it probably more than any other of my freight locomotives because it runs so well. So who says it's got a shocking mechanism? It's got a mechanism that works. Criticism, oh, it's only got a 3-pole motor. I've been modelling since, not modelling, I've been into railways, I've been to trains since the sort of early 1970s. This model might only have a 3-pole motor. But I remember when Airfix came along in the late 1970s and they introduced the 1400 class 042 tank GWR and the 6100 class Big Prairie, again GWR, and they both had 5-pole motors. Were they much better runners than this? No, they were far worse. Just having a 5-pole motor does not make your model magically better. If the chassis design is rubbish, doesn't matter what sort of motor it's got, and if the motor itself is badly built, doesn't matter if it's got 21 poles, it ain't going to be a good runner. So I think sometimes we ought to forget the theory. If a simple mechanism works really well, then who cares what it's like? If it runs well, it runs well. And I think we should ditch the theory sometimes. It's a bit like those people they're those marketing people who'll tell you to buy the latest iPhone because it's got a 30 megapixel camera or something. I can tell you, I mean, I'm a keen photographer as well. 30 megapixels, if your lens is only a couple of millimeters in diameter, doesn't matter how many megapixels it's got, it's never going to give us clearer picture as, say, an SLR camera with a 6 megapixel sensor. You know, theory is trumped by practice every time with these simple models that were built. They're all built to a price. Compromises have been made. If a 3-pole motor makes this model run well, that's all we need. And here is another model that got a lot of criticism in the press, and I've done a review of this locomotive. It's the Heljan Tango, Heljan, however you pronounce it. If you're Danish, I think it's probably Heljan, but there we go. And this came in for a lot of criticism by, again, from certain YouTubers, and I can't remember why, but I bought one from Hatton's about 5 years ago when they were still, Hatton still existed, and they were selling them off half price, £85. And I thought, really? Such a nice, attractive, big locomotive for so little? And I did have a few problems with it in my initial running in. The 280, long coupled wheelbase, didn't have much sort of lateral movement in it, and I had to loosen it up and lubricate it before it would go around my track properly. So there were some sort of quality control issues there, but I think it's a brilliant model. Now that I've got it running well, now that I've run it in properly, and again, had it about 5 years, it's another big, smooth-running freight train. And I've got a particular thing about smooth-running freight trains. To my mind, they're the locomotives whose top speed is never going to be very high, so they really need to be able to slowly crawl off and cruise around your track at a scale 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, something like that. So let's see this one in action. Again, it got a panning from certain people in the model railway fraternity, but I think I own 4, maybe 5 Heljan models, a couple of diesels and a couple of steam, a couple of tangos, and mine are all fantastic runners. So don't believe everything you read in the press. I think that's quite a smooth start, don't you? Now, 2 criticisms of the Heljan Tango were that the end of the axles were bare metal and that the handrails were bare metal, which was a bit of a throwback to the 1980s. Okay, not ideal, but you can do something about that very easily. If my locomotive runs beautifully, am I worried about those bits of bare metal? So here is the Heljan Tango, and guess what? Yeah, I painted over the axle ends with black paint. I painted the bare steel handrails with black paint, because that's about the most basic modelling you can do, really. If you haven't got a tin of black paint and a paintbrush, then I can't see you're really a railway modeller at all. So the bare minimum of skill needed to make a locomotive that didn't look quite right into a locomotive that looks right, and it runs superbly. To my mind, the most important thing about any locomotive is it runs well. Things like, oh, not quite the right shade, don't bother about that. Particularly all black freight locomotives, it's very easy to touch up any faults in paintwork and things like that. Okay, well, I hope you've found these musings on what I like about locomotives and what I'm not fussed about interesting, maybe, or useful. 2 locomotives there, superb runners. The Bachmann Robinson 04 and the Heljan Tango. I'm just looking around my layout and I can tell you a few more superb runners. Here's one. The Hornby J15, brilliant. All-wheel pickup, very nicely geared, sensible top speed, superb runner. Another one, while I've got it, a bit too close, hang on a sec. Let's go back a bit, sorry about that, a bit crude. The Oxford Rail, what is it, N7, beg your pardon, N7. Let's get that. Controller out the way. So this part of the layout is a bit dark, and when you're looking at a plain black locomotive, yeah, a really super runner, and great for sort of suburban passenger trains. I find, funnily enough, that my freight engines, in fact all my locomotives with smaller driving wheels, like this one, are better runners than the ones with larger driving wheels, like the A4 Pacific behind it. They are good at high speed, as you'd expect, big driving wheels, but they're a bit less smooth at a crawl, and I guess when your locomotive is accelerating out of a station, yeah, fine, get them up to good speed, they look nice, but they're not brilliant at a very slow crawl, and that's really just the gearing. You know, the same motor is driving a locomotive with much bigger wheels, and if it's going to have a high top speed, and of course if you've got an A4 Pacific, its top speed should be something like 126 miles an hour if it's Mallard, whereas an N7 top speed might be 60 or 70 miles an hour, and those smaller wheels help it to be very smooth at low speeds. In general, I would say definitely the smaller the wheels, the smoother the running the locomotive, especially of modern designs. And as I said earlier about the N7 and the Heljan Tango as well, whatever criticism about the mechanism, they're damn good runners. So if you don't mind a few faults in the physical appearance of the Tango that you can remedy yourself, then they're superb locomotives. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.